Hey team, just wanted to send you a quick message today about the process on our trust. And one of the questions that I need to ask you, and then something that I just want to remind you of. The question I need you guys to ask is, when you're doing the trust and you're getting through the process, I want you to make sure you ask who is on your deed. Because what I'm finding out is there have been a lot of people lately who have had either spouses pass away or have gone through divorces, or have just whatever the situations are, had a kid in one case this year where they have put people on the deed. And so when we go to put their trust inside of or their deed inside of the trust, right? So now we created a trust, we go and we look up and we go, wait a minute, this person who passed away 5 years ago is not on the deed. Or is not on the deed, and now we have to get a copy of the death certificate. So that's something that you can collect right away is, hey, I need a copy of the death certificate. And what the counties are asking for is one of those originals. So when somebody passes away, the coroner usually gives 10 or 15 copies of original copies. Well, they're, the originals, whatever, the certified copies, I guess you would say, of the death certificate, and people just usually have them stacked up. So we need one of those to send to the counties, because we have to do an affidavit to take the person off of the person who's deceased off of the deed before we can do a quick claim deed and move them in. So that's just a quick tip. The person, if you've been divorced and the person's still on and that person's alive, they have to sign off on the house because it's still their house. And so if a judge or somebody awarded them, a portion of the house, but they never took them off the deed, that's usually less common than finding people with deaths. And then some people put their kids on the trust because they think, okay, yeah, we've talked about that as being the poor man's way of making sure that it transfers without probate. The problem is capital gains. And so that's the reminder, is that capital gains jumps into as soon as you put somebody on the loan. I was talking with Marcus this week, and we had somebody who had put their granddaughter on their deed. And several years ago, I think it was like almost 20 years ago, or maybe it wasn't that many years ago, but I know that the house was purchased for about $200,000. It's now worth $600,000. So 250 is what you're allowed without having to pay capital gains. Well, if her grandfather passes away and she inherits the house and then sells it, that first 250 is what is allowed. 250,000 was allowed without paying capital gains. In that case, there's over $450,000 worth of value that's been put on the house, so that capital gains tax will be there. And so it's so much easier just to remove her from the deed and put her on the trust. No more capital gains. So those are two things. Hopefully those are tips that will help you. Make sure you're finding out who's on the deed when you're doing a trust, you're setting it up. And it might be a really good question when you're just marketing, is asking, we've been doing a lot of living trusts, who's on your deed right now? And how is it formed? Because tenants in common is one way, which means that the person is split out, and their portion, that was the other thing that came up, is their portion of the trust, if it's tenants in common, can be given to somebody else. If it's joint tenants with rights of survivorship, then if one spouse passes away, the other gets all 100% of that house. And we had that this week as a question. Like, one lady said, well, if I pass away, I want my portion to go to my kids. This is especially important in blended families. So right now they have it in joint tenancy with rights of survivorship. So if she were to pass away, her husband gets the whole house, and then he gets to decide whether those go to the kids without a trust. So I hope that's helping. I hope that just puts it back into your mind. All things that are great questions, and all questions that you can call me while you're doing an appointment if you need to. All right, you guys have an awesome, wonderful, just incredible day today. Don't forget, you, my friends, are God's greatest gift, and we will talk to you next week.